Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 72. Let's get this show on the road. Keep your foot on the gas. And let's see if that title sticks with the video. Not sure what to call the video yet. I was able to bring home 6 veggie wraps left over from work lunch today. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge their beauty in my freezer. I already ate one of them, so I've got 5 in the freezer. Already took the tin foil off of them so that when I take them out and microwave them this weekend, there will not be any weird bits of aluminum. It's so beautiful. All right, so it's important to celebrate the big wins, you know? All right, so today's video, Friday, March 9th's video, is a scenario. It's a scenario I encountered on Facebook today. And I think it's important to work through scenarios so that, let's go see, I can do that. Because by working through scenarios, we can make some of our responses kind of automatic, some of our learnings kind of automatic. Come on. I want to get all on one screen. Good. Okay. And yeah, having those automatic responses helps us to make better decisions faster. In fact, in the emotional intelligence book I'm reading right now, it was talking about how we need to practice the good argument techniques, the good ways to disagree techniques when we are not emotionally heated. Because when we are emotionally heated, we're unlikely to be able to use anything analytical. We're only going to be able to use the things we're really good at using. So if we haven't practiced these techniques when we are not emotionally heated, we're not going to have them in our toolbox when we are flustered. So I think similarly, financially, we need to be looking at financial scenarios when we're calm so that when we are like in the middle of a deep pile of shit financially, we can make better decisions and we can use better judgment. So let's read through the scenario. A 49-year-old woman divorced a few years ago. She had a net worth with her ex-husband of $800,000 when they were married, but that was reduced to $600,000 after divorce-related legal fighting. She had been a homemaker before the divorce. Now she is receiving $20,000 a year in alimony for the next 10 years. She will also receive part of her ex-husband's Social Security and part of a small pension. As part of the divorce settlement, she received $200,000 in an IRA and hopefully another $130,000 from the sale of a primary residence. She is currently earning a bachelor's degree. She is now happily engaged to a new guy, a tech guy who pays most of the bills, and he also has his own retirement. She won't get married to the tech guy because if she married him, then the alimony would end. The tech guy expects to receive $2 or $3 million in inheritance when his 80-year-old dad dies, who they both love and want to live for a long time. The tech guy plans to retire when his dad dies. She plans to retire in 10 years and travel with the tech guy. And her question for people was, what do you think of my overall situation? She was thinking about becoming a nanny, which she was already doing part-time, but she was just going to move to doing it full-time. Because, according to her retirement calculator, given, the $200,000 plus $130,000, given the $330,000, she invests that for 10 years, she's going to have over $1 million. She was also thinking about taking out a $500,000 life insurance policy against her fiance to keep them on track. And let's see. So if I widen this a bit, because I want to keep everything good. All right. I want to make sure you guys can read this stuff. All right. So I used Dave Ramsey's investment calculator with a 9% rate of return. And I started with an initial balance of $330,000. And the actual number was $20,700, so I made 10 years of monthly contributions of $20,700, which is $207,000 in total contributions. And the investment growth from 9% was 587, so she ends up with $1.124 million after 10 years of investing. So that's where that $1 million figure comes from. And I'm going to read this again really quick, simply to reinforce the details in people's minds. Because I want you to predict some things. I want you to have some kind of predictive thoughts about where I'm going with this. And I want you to compare what I say next with what you predicted and see, does it match up or was it different? If it was different, why was it different? And am I just wrong, or did you not understand something, and what was it in particular? All right, so a 49-year-old woman divorced a few years ago. She had an $800,000 net worth when she was married. That was reduced to $600,000 after divorce-related legal fighting. She had been a homemaker before the divorce. Now she's receiving $20,700 a year in alimony for the next 10 years, and will also receive part of her ex-husband's Social Security and part of a small pension. As part of her divorce settlement, she received $200,000 in an IRA and hopefully $130,000 from the sale of a primary residence. She's currently earning a bachelor's degree. She is now happily engaged to a tech guy who pays most of the bills and has his own retirement. She won't get married to the tech guy because then the alimony would end. The tech guy expects to receive $2 to $3 million in inheritance when his fantastic 80-year-old dad dies, who they both love. The tech guy plans to retire when his dad dies. She plans to retire in 10 years and travel with the tech guy. Should she be a nanny? What do you think of the situation overall? And should she be a nanny because she'll have $1 million in 10 years? And finally, final little question here is, should she take out a $500,000 life insurance policy against her fiance? All right. So that is the scenario. If you want, pause the video and just think about this. Yep. All right, I'm moving on. Okay, let's talk about the S&P 500. And here we have on the right side of the screen an S&P 500 graph. And this is going from 1950 down here up until, the year 2000 is about right here. And then 2008 is about right here. And then we keep going. And 2016 is the final part of my S&P 500 graph. So we can see that it goes up, basically, and there are some wiggles. The stock market is profitable, but the stock market is also very volatile. So if you're looking at a relatively short retirement planning period, like 10 years, you have to worry about the volatility of the stock market. For example, if we pick a period of 10 years from 1999 to 2009, I put that in an S&P 500 calculator, back calculator, and what we find is that the total S&P 500 return, if you invested money in 1999 and then looked at it in 2009, was minus 40.926%. What the 10 years of investing and you lost 40% of your money? That's not what the stock market is supposed to do. And I also went to an advanced S&P 500 calculator, and I took her specific numbers, starting with $330,000, investing $17.25 per month, because that's what $20,700 is divided over 12 months, and doing that for 10 years. What we find is that she would have had invested a total of $537,000, over $500,000 in that 10-year period between 1999 and 2009. And in 2009, her portfolio would be worth $361,000. That's horrible. And yeah, she would still have the Social Security and the pensions from her first marriage. But putting in $537,000 in the market and only getting back $361,000, that's not a very fun scenario. And that's a really painful scenario. So this $1 million figure after 10 years of investing, it's an illusion. It's an illusion because if we look at the S&P 500 graph, sometimes that works. Sometimes you pick a 10-year period and you got lucky, and that 10-year period was a period where it went up a lot. But sometimes you pick a 10-year period and you end up with the same amount you had before, especially in the last 2 decades with these wiggles. What I did then is, because we know 2009 was the bottom of the market, and for anybody who knows the market, we also know the market quickly recovered in about 2 to 3 years after 2009. So what I did is, in the advanced S&P 500 calculator, I simply had her work for 3 more years, investing the same amount of money every month. What we find then is that if she worked for 3 more years, investing at the same rate, she would have $750,000 instead of $360,000 in her investment portfolio. And if you combine $750,000 with the Social Security and with the pension, I'm sure she would be able to retire. It's a terrible rate of return, 2.262% overall, but that's certainly much, much better than that minus 40% that she got. And let's see, what's the yearly rate? Minus 4.9% was the annualized return. Yeah, so plus 2.262%. It's a horrible rate of return, but at least she can retire, So she would be, 49, 59, 62, and she'd be able to retire on $750,000 plus some other stuff. That's not a bad deal. And then for fun, what I had her do is I just had her work until 2018, until now. And if she kept working, if she was able to work for that additional 9 years, she would now be 68, but she would have $1.8 million, an overall investment rate of return of 6.4%, which is not a fabulous return, but 6.4 is certainly much better than 2.2. And $1.8 million, she would definitely be safe for retirement. And I got to say, though, I think she would be very lucky to be able to work until 68 while saving $17.25 a month kind of consistently, especially because she's starting her career late and she's starting with that bachelor's degree at age 49. And the takeaway from the investing section is, if you wait until 49 to pay attention to retirement, and you only have this 10-year period that you can play the market. I don't want to say play the market because it's not really a game. It's just something to plan against. It's not like a casino game because there is historical data to make decisions on. If you only have 10 years, then these market cycles, these wiggles, could completely dominate the outcome of your retirement, and we don't want that. We do not want our end of life to be dominated by recent wiggles in the stock market, which means that we need to be investing for more than 10 years, which means that we need to be investing early. And so when I say save money, and I say save money as soon as you can, and I say start preparing for retirement early because it's much easier, this situation shows you what is real for someone today in 2018 is that she's planning on this 10-year plan from 2018 to say 2028. I got to say, the price to earnings, the Shiller price to earnings ratio right now looks a lot like it did in 99. And I'm not going to tell you that I think the stock market's going to do exactly the same thing it did in 99 because the stock market does all kinds of stuff for all kinds of different reasons. But what I definitely believe is that the investment calculator that assumed a 9% return is not something that I would rely on to plan that retirement. And I would be very nervous for those 10 years thinking about how I was going to make this work, and I would not expect that I could just throw my money into the S&P 500 for only 10 years and predictably get $1 million. All right. So the second thing I noticed, so that was what I noticed about her investment assumptions. The second thing I noticed about this article was the attitude towards inheritance. I think it's toxic to plan your retirement anticipating an inheritance. People who anticipate an inheritance, they tend to earn less because they don't think they'll need the money. They tend to be bigger spenders because a lot of times if you're anticipating an inheritance in the next 2 years, if you're anticipating this incoming money, people will pre-spend it. And we see this a lot of times with parents who regularly give their adult kids money. A lot of times if the parents are going to give the kids money around Christmas and they've been doing it for 5 years, the kids will put the money on the credit card in November and then pay it off at Christmas. So inheritance, it tends to make you spend more, earn less, and then when it doesn't arrive, you're all emotionally messed up about it because you thought that you were going to get an inheritance. So now you're upset. And you're needlessly upset because if you just ignored the inheritance, you wouldn't have anything to be upset by. There are plenty of stories about people anticipating an inheritance that never arrives because old age is expensive. It's not your money in the first place, and the money may be left to someone else, or it may be tied up in some kind of crazy legal battle. Those happen all the time because there are a tremendous number of people who do not do estate planning. They don't do a will. It goes through probate. Things get really ugly, especially the larger amount of money it is. So when I read that initial kind of scenario blurb, it was a red flag to me that the tech guy said that he was only going to retire when his dad died. Because it also said that the tech guy had prepared his own retirement. So if the tech guy has his own retirement squared away, why is the timing of his retirement dependent upon his dad dying? That's weird. That's a red flag for me. And I'm certainly not saying that that is a bad guy, and I don't know a lot of the details of the situation. I'm just saying I read that, and it worries me. When I read someone including in their retirement plan the anticipation of $2 to $3 million of inheritance, I don't see that $2 to $3 million as a fantastic benefit. I see it as something for me to be worried about. And I think people should completely ignore inheritance when they plan their financial life. Yep. All right. So now the life insurance. She's talking about getting $500,000 of life insurance on her fiance. So a 20-year term life insurance policy is going to be expensive at age 49. If she went with whole life or cash value life insurance, that's going to be a ripoff no matter what age she is. And I'm really not sure that a 20-year term policy at age 49 is a good idea, just mathematically, because they're going to charge a lot of money because a lot of people die before 69. And so I would suspect that the life insurance is just not a good idea, not going to happen. Next thing I noticed, there is no mentioning of estate planning in her description about the things that she was doing with money after her divorce. And since she has a net worth of $330,000, she needs some kind of plan for her death. So I would ask, does she have a will? Does she have a living will? Do her heirs know exactly what her wishes are? And that's something that needs to be squared away as part of managing this wealth. And as part of her retirement plan. There's a tremendous amount of emotional stress and wasted time and resources because people do not have a will and do not do estate planning. The other thing I want to discuss is the end of relationships. This woman was very excited about her fiancé, and that's great. But we need to prepare for the end of relationships. And I'm not saying the inevitable end of relationships. I'm saying the possible end of relationships because all kinds of weird things happen in life. All right? Especially when you get older. Perhaps her tech guy could suffer from a stroke. And the stroke doesn't kill him, but the stroke causes permanent mental damage and it changes his personality. And he becomes completely intolerable. That's a sad scenario, but it happens. And there's nothing that she'd be able to do about it. And they could very well break up over it. And if she breaks up for reasons that are nobody's fault, she doesn't need her retirement to be ruined at the same time. Therefore, for this 10-year period, she needs to maintain separate retirement accounts for herself. She needs to regularly deposit money into those retirement accounts. And she needs to work an economically rewarding profession so that if she is no longer with the tech guy, she still has a decent hourly rate, and so she's still able to live. Because in this scenario, the tech guy was paying a lot of her expenses right now. And if he goes away, she's going to have to cover those expenses and continue to prepare for retirement. It's also very possible in her 50s that she's going to gain some kind of disability, so she may not be able to get full-time work. Also, there's age discrimination through her 50s, which means that she wants a better hourly rate so that even if she's working part-time, she still gets a decent income. And for me, all this adds up to she needs sobriety. She needs to have a very sober attitude towards preparing for this retirement, because that 10-year investment period is very volatile and very not guaranteed. This relationship is definitely not guaranteed. She's entering the workforce for the first time. And so when she has to make choices that are more conservative in terms of picking something that would earn more versus, something that's, I don't want to say liberal, but less conservative, where she thinks the money is just going to come in no matter what, she needs to go on the conservative side. She needs to pick that profession that's going to earn more money. And, if things go well, then she can just stop working earlier. But if things don't go well, she will be covered with as much income as she was going to get from getting that bachelor's degree later in life. And the final thing I want to talk about, this is something that you don't hear about in a lot of these scenarios, but is something that people need to hear and people need to take away from these scenarios, is that it is really important to plan ahead. And the fact that she's in this situation to a great degree is because she did not plan ahead with her first husband enough. $200,000 of that initial $800,000 net worth that she had with her first husband evaporated because that couple did not plan their finances ahead of time. They didn't have a plan because instead of just executing a plan where they knew how much each person was going to take away for retirement, they fought with lawyers and wasted $200,000. So if they split that $200,000 evenly between them, she'd have $100,000 extra just for not having that stupid legal fight. Additionally, if she had planned more with her first husband, it's very likely that they simply would have saved $100,000 more for her during the course of their marriage, or invested in things that were more profitable, and therefore the accounts would be worth $100,000 more. I gotta say, she's 49, so, you just back up, that's 25 years. If they had just been planning 25 years before that, getting $100,000 of additional money, if you have 25 years to plan how you're going to get it, is not that difficult. And so if she had that extra $200,000 because her planning with her first husband was more intentional and more coordinated, then combined with the Social Security and the pension money that we've already talked about, there would be a lot less anxiety in this whole scenario. Because if she had begun this conversation with $530,000, even in the horrible depths of the 2009 stock market bottom, she would still have had $495,000 invested. And $495,000 in addition to the Social Security and in addition to the pension money would probably cover her for retirement. But, you wouldn't even need to worry about it that much because the market bounced back after 2 years. That, $495,000 would have turned into something closer to $700,000, say. And, $700,000 plus this other stuff, she would be fine. And that's without even working. That's if she just had the $495 in 2009, still stopped working and just waited for the market to come back, kept the money invested. Keep the money invested, guys. Long-term investing, buy and hold. Yeah, then she would have $700,000 plus the Social Security plus the pension. She would be fine for retirement on that 10-year plan, even with the horrible stock market crash, if she had planned ahead with the first husband. So takeaway is plan ahead. It's huge. Planning now when you're 25 can save you at 49 from a terrible divorce. So the planning thing is really important. All right. That's it for 5-Year Club video number 72. Keep your foot on the gas. Have a fabulous evening.